Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mics podcast.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say Mike Parry has almost returned to his normal, more florid colour. Your face is looking a little bit pinker than it looked on Friday when I last saw you.
Florid colour?
Well, you're normally more florid, aren't you? You've got a sort of a pink
What
hue.
do you mean florid? What colour was I last week?
Well, on Friday you were pale as a sheet.
I know,
literally.
I wasn't well.
I mean, you looked really, really ill.
Oh, I had desperate bird flu, and of course with my ticker...
You didn't have bird flu.
With my ticker, only a third of my heart works.
Once again, despite the fact that you're supposed to be, a man on the brink of death.
Yeah.
You've recovered again.
I'm not on the brink of death. It's the stoicism with which I approach life. And by the way, it is time for me to say hello to the audience. Good morning, welcome. You never give me a welcome anymore. You just take me for granted.
I walk in here.
You treat me like part of the furniture.
Well, I don't have to say welcome since you're already here, do I?
Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
I don't feel I have to welcome you because you're not like a guest. You're not like a stranger. You're like my partner.
Well, that's true. Yeah,
which is kind of depressing when I think about it. In that sense,
it's a bit harsh. Isn't
it's like having a second wife.
Well, not really. Now, talking about wives, of course, you were mentioning earlier, Joan of Arc could have made the first FMP, the first Mrs. Parry. That really is being a little bit less than respectful to one of the greatest women in history. No, to her, really.
Well, I know you're a great student of these things. You'll tell us about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I'm a student of medieval French history, actually. But there's
medieval French history?
Yeah, but there's a new...
I'm not sure we could do a whole quiz on that.
I wouldn't want to do one on that, thank you. It's too boring for the audience. It's a specialist subject. And
we're doing ducks this week, I think, aren't we?
Doing what, sorry?
Ducks, aren't we doing ducks?
No, it's the World War II.
Well, why is it World War II?
Because you wanted it to be World War II.
No, I didn't.
Well, I think World War II.
No, you suggested that last week.
There's not enough information.
You're avoiding the quiz on ducks because
there's
last week you
enough information on ducks to be able to do a quiz on it.
I can find you. Our quiz masters can find you questions on any number of subjects.
All right, but ducks is too boring because there's not enough to know about ducks, really.
The first question will be, when are we going to see a picture of you feeding these ducks?
Well, there's loads of pictures of me feeding the ducks. There's a video on the YouTube channel of me feeding the ducks.
One.
The one I feel sorry for is the crane. Everywhere I go now, and I go to 2 or 3 different ponds,
really?
The lonely crane flies around to these different ponds and lands on one or the other. There's a duck house down in Tadworth that he occupies. There's another one in Burheath.
How do you know it's the same one?
Well, it is. You can tell. And he settles on the island in the middle of the pond.
How can you tell it's the same one?
Excuse me. And
You're
then
still coughing.
In a place called I'm not completely cured. I'm just fighting it. And then in Carshalton, he lands on the railings and he sits there and he looks so forlorn.
There's more than one crane in Surrey.
No, there's not. And sometimes he goes on the roof of the printing shop nearby and he looks so forlorn. In many ways, it mirrors my life.
Yeah.
Man's
He's
battle.
Sort of a loner.
No, not a loner.
Maybe he's following you.
No. No. Sort of
There's that weird bloke with the Mercedes.
One man's battle against the injustices of life and that sort of thing. You know what I mean? The poor old crane. And I don't think there's any fish in these ponds anymore for him to eat. So I don't know how he survives because cranes do eat fish.
Maybe you should try and feed the crane as well. Then.
Well, I always
take a couple of tins of sardines.
You can't really get close to the crane. You ever seen a crane take off? I mean,
yes, I have
they've
many
got
times.
Beautiful flight action because they don't actually shoot into the air.
No.
They jump up and put their wings out and they come down again slowly. You know what I mean? And it's so elegant to watch. But anyway,
unlike watching you, which is not in the least elegant.
I'm not sure what you mean about that.
Well,
but
that's where the comparison ends.
I'm not going to get drawn into that.
What's all this, by the way, about you tweeting that you cured yourself with wine gums? Because
do you know what
that tells me is that if you cured yourself with wine gums, you couldn't really have been properly ill.
Oh, I was very ill.
I know you seemed very ill.
I mean, the gunge that was coming out of my lungs, without wanting to distress our listeners at this time of the morning.
Too much about
no, of course we don't. No, but I mean, that meant there wasn't enough room for air in my lungs, and it was desperate. It was a desperate situation. Excuse me, got a bit breathless there because just the very thought of it makes me distressed. But the point is, I didn't have the flu jab, and I should have done. You see, because I'm...
Is it worth having it now, do you think?
Oh, definitely, but I've got to get over this one. I've got to get completely over this one. They won't give you a flu jab while you've still got remnants of cold and flu in your body, because it won't work. So I've got to get completely right. So I've got to be extremely...
Well, you'll never be completely right, will
I've got to be extremely careful. I was out in the North Downs today, beautiful day, leaves all over the place.
It is autumn, isn't it?
The mad leaf blower nutters were out, right? And it's unbelievable.
Even on the Downs?
Well, on the approaches to the Downs, there's these lovely roads, these lovely houses. And lovely houses have lovely trees in them. And lovely trees shed a lot of leaves.
Yeah.
So they're lying all over the road. So some nutter comes up in a van, gets out, gets his blower out, goes up the road.
Are these council people, do you think?
I don't know. They're private. They're hired by the residents' associations to get rid of the leaves. So this guy comes out and blows all these leaves around. And he goes, and 2 minutes later, some other guy arrives and blows them all back into the place where they came from. I don't know.
They can't be working for the same organisation then, surely,
No,
can they?
probably not. But I mean, I don't know why you blow leaves around. What is it all about?
Well,
why do you want to blow leaves around?
Before they invented these leaf blowing machines, people used to actually collect the leaves, put them into piles, which wasn't always
and
necessarily
burn them
the
or
best.
something.
Well, no, they would then a sort of a council lorry would come and they would collect them all in plastic bags and put them away.
I agree. What are they blowing them around for? Where are they blowing them to? I mean, I spoke to one bloke who said, well, this guy next door, he's got his own leaf blower. He comes out and he blows all the leaves onto my driveway.
Yeah.
So as soon as he's gone in, I come out with my leaf blower and I blow them all back onto his driveway. It's just a ludicrous,
nonsense,
absolutely pointless exercise.
And think of the pollution.
The pollution. I wish I'd been the bloke who invented the leaf blower, because to get a load of brainless idiots going around buying a device that you don't need is a quick way to a fortune without having to think too much about it. You know what I mean? Leaf blowing is for the future because more and more people, as wealth increases in society, will want that extra appliance in their garage.
Well, you won't need one, will you?
No, we haven't got a leaf blower. You better go and get a leaf blower, right? So I'm going to go into the leaf blowing business, see if I can make my fortune that way, because that's the way other people have done it, and it's a good idea.
You could wander the ponds with your leaf blower attached to you.
Why would I do that?
Well, because you seem to wander the ponds anyway.
No, I don't.
You just told me you went to 3 different ponds and saw the same crane.
Yeah, no, not at the same time. I mean, over the past 10 days or something, I've seen the.
So they don't go to the same pond every day then?
Not necessarily.
So how do you
Depends.
manage to feed the same ducks then?
Well, I'm part of a conservancy, and we have a rota and all this kind of stuff, okay? So we don't always go to the same pond,
Well, I'd love
you know
to
what I
see
mean?
some pictures.
How can I take a selfie of me and the ducks?
Well, you take one of you with the ducks in the background. Very
Well,
simple.
yes, but
I mean, even you should be able to manage that.
I'm not sure I could manage that, because I can't switch my phone to show me the picture I'm taking.
Why don't you take the camera you brought to the live show the other night, set it up on a tripod...
I've done that. I've told you.
Put it on a timer.
That's already on YouTube.
No, I don't want an old one. Put it on a timer.
It's
and
already
just
there.
pose.
Look, our listeners aren't that worried about it. The point is, my heart is in the right place. I mean, trouble you is, Mike, you see everything in practical terms. I have emotion spirit about this. I don't need to boast about it, okay?
Really?
It happily keeps me. Now, Joan of Arc, right? Joan of Arc, new book out on Joan of Arc. Absolutely fantastic, incredible. She's a wonderful woman. I mean, people will say, how can you support Joan of Arc? She was a fraud.
My producer just told me you're not talking into your microphone, by the way. He says it sounds tinny.
Well, in that case, somebody's got to adjust the microphone, because it's in front of my face. If it's not making noise, the microphone doesn't work. So there's no good telling me that. There's an arrow here which says speak
like
in
being
here.
told that.
Well, I'm sorry. Nothing I can do about it, mate.
Sounds better already.
All I do is talk. I don't know anything about the equipment. Don't be tampering with your equipment. No.
Now, once again, you've decided to tell me the story of Joan of Arc when we have to stop. So,
no,
I mean,
we
you're
don't
going
have to
hold
stop
that
yet.
thought.
No, we don't have to stop yet. Joan of Arc, right, now you're going to say, but hang on, she was French, she was fighting against the English. How can you possibly fly a flag for her?
Well, no,
that's not the story. That's not the story.
Well, I wouldn't say that anyway, because I'm an internationalist.
Burgundians were the people we were fighting. Yeah, who were fighting the French.
People from Burgundy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. It's a very complicated nation, the 1441 continent. Very complicated continent, Europe in those days.
Still complicated.
But I believe Joan of Arc was the female equivalent of Jesus Christ. And I believe this latest book.
You didn't do very well on that quiz either.
Which one?
The one about Jesus Christ.
It was about the Bible.
Yeah, I know. And him, though.
Well, even I can't read every word of the Bible contemporaneously to update your daft quiz. You know what I mean? Simple as that. I can tell you all about Joan of Arc.
So why have you suddenly come upon Joan of Arc anyway? Is there a new show coming out about it?
No. I scour bookshops all the time to find knowledge, to increase my knowledge. Right. And I came across...
See, you spotted cranes there.
Why would you get a crane in a bookshop?
Well, I don't know.
What a stupid
You might have
question.
been sitting lonely as a crane on top of the bookshop.
What a stupid question.
Well, you said he was on the top of some other shop.
He was on top of a print shop, which is next to a river with a watermill on it, because that's the environment of a crane.
Well, he might
Cranes don't sit on the top of buildings in town centres, you fool.
They do sometimes.
No, they don't. They sit near rivers because they eat fish.
Right.
That's why they're always near water.
He might be near the fish and chip shop.
Don't be ridiculous, honestly. Why can't you take these things seriously? You see, things you don't understand, mate, you have to deride. That is the first retreat and the first recall.
I'll tell you what I saw the other day, actually.
Of a jerk.
Because I see seabirds and things down by the Thames.
Yes.
I saw a cormorant, actually, at the end of my road the other day.
A cormorant? That's quite interesting. By the way, in Hastings, there's a new exhibition opened, isn't there?
Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Of paintings done by some guy called Bartarelli.
Really?
Some Italian guy. Yeah. I saw the review of them. I'm thinking
they've got an art gallery there, which was put up to great expense to the local populace. That nobody's really very interested in.
Well, that's the local populace's fault for being culturally inept.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that's a very good
People
way
of
to describe.
Hastings,
That's a very good way to
listen to me.
describe. That's a very good way to describe
Get along
the
to
people
your
of,
local
people of Hastings.
museum.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I don't live there, of course. This is Talk Sport.
It's getting dark when lights close their tired eyes. I'll soon be with you, my love, and give you my doll surprise. I'll be with you, darling, soon. I'll be with you when the stars start falling.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two Mikes, Mike Parry and Mike Graham. There will be a podcast available a little bit later on, of course. That song I'm sure you recognise as the work of Cream.
That was
One
Badge,
of
wasn't
the
it?
first ever supergroup.
Yeah, Badge, that was called, wasn't it, that
Badge?
single? Yeah.
No, it's The Sunshine of Your Love.
No, it's called Badge. That was their most famous single.
Yeah, it's called The Sunshine of Your Love.
Is it? I thought it was called Badge.
No.
They made quite a few... do you know they were only together for 2.5 years,
I know.
Cream? Now, Cream consisted of Jack Bruce,
Yeah.
who was the bass player and the
Who
singer.
just died.
Who's just died. This is why we're playing it. Yeah, he's just died a couple of days ago, right? He was 72 or something like that.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton, who's still alive and going strong,
Yeah.
you know, after a debauched early life, he's now a paragon of virtue, and
Paragram something else.
and of course Ginger Baker,
Yeah.
who has this sort of extraordinary life in South Africa, running like a horse farm or something.
Yeah.
Excuse me, that's just the remnants of the bird flu. And anyway, the reason we're playing now is Jack Bruce has died. Now, although they were only together 2.5 years. They sold about 35 million records in that time. They were an absolute supergroup. They broke up because Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker couldn't get on with each other. Ginger Baker once pulled a knife on Jack Bruce and would do things like when Jack Bruce was indulging himself with a long solo guitar riff or whatever, Ginger Baker would throw his drumsticks at him from behind him and bounce them off his head, all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
And you know what's interesting about Jack Bruce is that he was never really interested in pop music, rock music. He was trained as a cellist originally.
The main instrument that he practiced on was a double bass. That's where he got the love of the bass guitar thing
Right.
from and all that kind of
And
stuff.
he was more into sort of jazz and blues
Yeah, he was.
than he ever was
yeah,
into,
you're right.
into
He
rock.
was a cellist. You're absolutely right. He was a cellist. Yeah, but the thing is, he remained bitter all his life because although they only went for 2.5, 3 years, because obviously the personalities within the group, they broke up, and Eric Clapton went on to much greater things. Ginger Baker did okay. Jack Bruce felt that his career had ended, but he then went around holding a grudge for the next 30 or 40 years against Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin, who he said picked up his sound
Right.
and then marketed it, worldwide as though they'd invented it, as though Led Zeppelin invented it, as though Jimi Hendrix had invented it. He said, we invented that sound, and they just took it on.
But he didn't do too badly in his life. I mean, he must have made quite a lot of money, mustn't he?
He made a fortune. He would buy a Scottish island on a whim and a new Ferrari, after he got up and had breakfast and all this kind of stuff. But in the end, when he was trying to come back, he was playing in dingy little venues, whereas Clapton, 20 years later, was holding court for 18 nights on the trot at the Royal Albert Hall. You know what I mean?
Well,
And-
Clapton was by far and away the most successful, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, by a mile. Yeah, by a mile. Ginger Baker was an extraordinary bloke. He used to work in a post office, sorting office, Royal Mail sorting office, and he went to his boss and said, thanks very much for the job and all that, I'm off now. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to join a rock group. I'm going to be a drummer. Oh, I didn't know you played the drums. No, I don't. But I've paid for a few lessons and I'm going to learn how to play and I'll become the best drummer in the world.
Yeah.
And he did. He was an extraordinary man, an absolutely extraordinary
Very
man.
eccentric, wasn't he?
Jack Bruce, though, was a real pop star. And why do I say that? He had the qualifications. A, liver transplant. B, 20 years heroin addict. C, drink problems, obviously, associate the liver transplant. And D, made and lost fortunes and all that. Real typical rock star. Now, you couldn't see Harry Styles ending up A, with a liver transplant, B, 20 years a heroin
I don't know,
addict.
maybe.
I very much doubt... Excuse me, sorry. Remnants of the bird flu. No, you couldn't really. And so, he, by the way, one of Jack Bruce's most famous quotes was, my advice to anybody who hasn't yet tried drugs is don't try drugs because they are great, and when you do try drugs, you'll like them, And if you're weak-willed, you will become an addict. So don't try them.
Right.
As a consequence,
Well, very
of course,
good advice.
Yes, but as a consequence, millions of people did go off and try drugs because Jack Bruce was actually
Well,
telling
the
them
thing about when
how
these
good it
guys
was.
lived was that, one, it was a pioneering
Excuse me.
time for music. It was also kind of an
Yeah.
experimental period for
Yeah.
drugs. We know a
Yeah.
lot more about drugs nowadays, and we know that they're not good for you, and we know that you shouldn't
Well,
take
you
them.
always know they're not good for you. Everybody knows that. But anyway, he was an extraordinary man, and they were an extraordinary group, Cream, really. Because, as I say, they only were only so brief. I mean, Ginger Baker and Bruce didn't even want to work together. But Eric Clapton said, look, the deal is for me to join this group. It's got to be you two, you know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm not working with either of you. So they did, but it only lasted 3 years, and then they were off.
And the most iconic version, I suppose, of that song always reminds me of, because I didn't really live through those times necessarily, is that scene in Goodfellas, you know, when Robert De Niro walks out from behind the bar.
Right.
And I don't know if you've seen Goodfellas.
He shoots somebody.
Tell me you've seen Goodfellas.
I've seen a bit of it. It's got the little fella in it, hasn't it? You know,
The little fella?
Yes, you know, the great American actor, DePescio. What's his name?
Joe Pesci, you mean?
Pesci.
Not
yeah.
DePescio.
Yeah, well, you know
From
what I'm
Danny
talking about,
DeVito.
yeah. He
Well,
was
it's got
a-
Robert De Niro in it, but it's also got a whole host of other kind of, you know, normal gangster types. in
Right.
it. But it's the true story of the robbery of Kennedy Airport. You know, when
Yeah.
the Air France, all the Air France money got stolen.
Does it-
But he walks out, and it's at that moment when
Right.
he walks out to
Yeah.
this song
Right.
that he basically decides to kill somebody. Who's part of their group, because
I
he
see.
figures that, you know, it's all going horribly wrong.
A liability, and he's
Yeah.
got to get rid of him.
Yeah.
Is that the film that starts with, ever since I was a kid, I've always
Yeah.
wanted to be a mobster?
That's
is
the
that
one.
it? Yeah.
That is the
yeah.
one.
Yeah, that's it. I've seen it then in that case. I can't remember what it was about, but I've seen it. But,
Well, I've just told you what it's about.
Yes, I know. But that was, you know, it was an extraordinary time for the music industry because, as you quite rightly say, when we were all like teenagers, and I was about like 13 or something like that.
I wasn't even that old.
Yeah, I know. We're all waking up to the idea of huge indulgences. You know, people like Brian Jones had already died, floating face down in his swimming pool. Jimi Hendrix wouldn't be far behind him because Jimi Hendrix died when he was 27. He's part
Well,
of
it's
the
called the
27
27 Club, isn't it?
Absolutely right, yeah.
Who else is in that?
Amy Winehouse and the guy from Doors. Who's buried in
Jim Morrison.
Yeah, buried in a
One more?
in a mortuary in
I think
Paris.
One more.
Who?
Janis Joplin was as well, I think.
Janis Joplin, yeah. She went out with my friend from the Daily Express. I told you that story before,
did.
haven't I?
You have
yeah.
told me that story.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, a great rock era. I wonder sometimes, you know, when young people of today read the obituaries, and these guys now have great establishment status. So, for instance, the best obituary I read on Jack Bruce was in the Times. You couldn't get a more fitting tribute at the end of your life, could you, than to have an obituary in the Times? Whereas when they were like big and all that kind of stuff, they would never have written about them in the Times.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
So they've just become
But
huge
that's how much the
establishment
Times
figures.
has changed as well, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's,
Or how the establishment has changed, perhaps.
how the establishment's changed, how society's changed, how we have all changed. You're absolutely right, mate. The only person who doesn't seem to have changed in the last 30 years that I've known you is you.
How have I not changed?
Well, you still seem to have this attitude to life that it will all eventually come right. You know, without getting out of bed in the mornings with too much gusto. You know
I
what
get
I mean?
into bed in the morning.
Yeah. You seem to think that, you know, life will solve its own problems. And, of course, it doesn't. You know, you have to solve life's problems. That's why I made the analogy about me and the crane.
How's that coming along? Well, Ali on the M4's got a question about that.
Oh, yes?
He says, are you sure this crane is not a heron? Has Porky got it wrong again?
No, it's a crane.
How do you know it's not a heron?
Well, what's the difference?
See, that could be one of the quiz questions on Thursday.
No, it
you say
couldn't.
there's not enough questions that we could ask you about birds and ducks.
No,
I
you
believe there
didn't
are.
say birds and ducks. You said ducks.
Well, when there's a question, when
Excuse me.
there's a duck quiz, it could encapsulate geese. It could encapsulate all kinds of flying
I
creatures.
don't know anything about
There
geese.
might even be a question about
It's
a
ridiculous.
pterodactyl in there.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Now,
So
what's
I wouldn't even
ridiculous
think
to
about it.
me is this Mike Ashley situation. What do you make of this situation with the Newcastle owner and the possibility of him buying Rangers or
Absolutely
controlling Rangers?
Absolutely extraordinary. Heard you say in your first hour for a trifling sum, which is what £2 million
£2 million
is to Mike
yeah.
Ashley, a trifling sum. He has gained control of one of the most famous football clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
And you know, so, I mean, I know Celtic won the European Cup, but people forget Rangers won the Cup Winners' Cup,
Yeah.
which was the other competition
Yeah.
in the 60s, 70s, and can probably boast one of the biggest fan bases in the world,
Yeah.
along with Celtic. And for Mike Ashley to suddenly come along, I mean, he's got one of the reasons he's got it is he's got naming rights on the stadium. So that's that's a huge sort of
and he's got this other
card to play.
contract with the kits and everything.
Got the
hasn't he?
contract with the kits and all that kind of stuff. Got just about 10% ownership, and has now what I find extraordinary is you gain control of a club by giving them an interest-free loan.
Yeah.
So does that mean that, you know...
Well, you can't imagine it happening in any other business. I mean, it's a bit like as
Exactly.
we were talking earlier. I mean, you go into Tesco's and you buy enough shares to go to have maybe 9%. And
Yeah.
say, here's £2 million. Any chance I can
Does
control
that
the
mean
board?
that anybody can go to Leeds now and lend them a couple of million quid to get them out of trouble and assume control of the club?
Well, I mean, you might say that you could set a precedent here. It could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, look, I'm endorsing what you're saying before. Mike Ashley's a very good businessman, so he's got a better chance of rescuing the club from its financial woes than anybody else because he makes things work. Now, if he has to make things work and introduce pain, we all know about pain, and we'll have to suffer it. And for your club to come right,
I don't like pain.
That might be the price. No, I know you don't like pain. You regard pain as a price not worth paying in life. That's why you get up in the mornings, you're not full of gusto.
I keep telling you, I don't get up in the mornings. I go to bed in the mornings.
Well,
It's
when
Talk
you used to get up
Sport.
in the mornings.
We are the two mics. More.
Thank you very much indeed. Was that a bit of cream?
That was not cream, no.
who's
That was
that?
Booker T and the MGs.
Oh, okay.
Green Onions.
Oh, yeah.
I believe.
Oh, green onions, yeah.
You know that song, right? Now, here's one from Olga
yeah.
in Holland Park, which is, I don't know
Olga.
whether... Olga,
Lovely
from the
name.
Volga. I don't know
Yeah.
whether that is from the Volga. It says, Porky would be better off getting a bride from the Far East or the Eastern Bloc. For the number of old boys knocking around with such brides, they must be available from social services. Porky has so much to give, and it is about time he gave it to someone in his penthouse flat. He will be a changed man, calm and stress-free, problem solved.
That's very nice, Olga, but rather suggestive in terms of
It is a bit, yeah.
what she means there. But I understand what you're saying. But listen, don't worry about me. I had a mission in life. That mission's not yet complete.
What is that mission?
Well, the mission really was to make sure that you don't waste a minute of life. I know what comes after life now because I've read all the latest material on, the parallel universe to the one on Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell you, a guy who knows all about parallel universe is Professor Brian Cox.
Oh, yes.
Now, he used to be a
was in a
musician.
band, wasn't he?
Was
Yeah.
it Dareem?
That's right. Yeah.
Dareem, what was it, the keyboard player?
Things can only get better.
Oh, was that their song?
Yeah, it was the only song they really were famous for.
Can
Well, it became
only
it
get
became the whole New Labour
Yeah.
sort of anthem, didn't it?
A whole new Labour anthem.
Remember when they got elected and they had their massive parties
Yes,
at
that's
the
right, I
People's
do, yeah.
Palace?
Yeah, I do,
I was
yeah.
invited to that.
Sorry, you got invited to that?
Yeah, I was, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And also, didn't...
I presume you weren't invited to it.
Well, I was probably doing something else at the time, to
Yeah,
be
probably,
honest.
yeah.
I don't remember it. But the other thing I was going to say wasn't that taken on as well by Barack Obama's lot?
I'm not sure
I
if
think
it was.
I think it
I'm
was.
not sure if it was. I once
I
did a
think
whole
it
show
was.
on different interesting campaign songs.
Did you?
Because we'll have an election
Well,
coming
you
up
made
soon.
the show interesting, did you?
It was very interesting, yeah. Yeah, very
Oh,
interesting.
well, that's interesting.
But that's
yeah.
another story, because there's always going to be somebody who
Excuse me.
complains that
Yeah, me
either
too,
the Tories have used their song without asking permission,
Yeah.
or I think it was Bruce Springsteen got upset with the Bush campaign for
Who was the one
using
who
"Born
got
in the
upset
USA."
recently? Somebody got upset when Labour used one of his songs recently, didn't they? Yeah, it was Bruce Springsteen. You're right, I think. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I think he was more upset with Bush. By the way, did you see that guy that ran at Cameron yesterday?
unbelievable.
I don't believe he's a jogger, by the way.
Doesn't look like a jogger, does he?
I think he's a guy that did something. I mean, also,
Yeah.
you don't run into someone. I don't care if you've got headphones in your head. I mean,
Yeah.
if a jogger ran into you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be happy, would
No,
you?
you wouldn't be happy at all.
I just don't believe that he ran into him by accident.
Joggers are supposed to be, aware of everything going on around them
Yeah.
because by the very nature of jogging, they're going at a different pace to other people
Yeah.
who are walking.
Right.
So they should have a sense of responsibility. No, this guy he made a statement afterwards saying I was assaulted by half a dozen
Yeah.
police officers. And
Well, that's what happens when you run into the Prime Minister.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to do a detour to hit the Prime Minister.
I would have
mean,
thought so.
These poor security guys are getting told that
Well-
you took your eye off the ball.
Well, they did. I mean, it's absolutely appalling
Yeah,
what they did.
yeah.
I mean, that guy who walks out in front of Cameron
Yeah.
is looking straight ahead of the car. He doesn't even see the guy to
I
his
know,
right
I know.
who's coming. And I was listening to some of the analysis by former security guards who said that they basically should have, it's a bit like football, they should have
Yeah.
had a diamond formation around him with
Yeah.
a guy sort of north, south, east and west, so that if anybody
And
comes
looking
anywhere
out,
near him...
looking out.
Yeah.
You know the way the Secret Service do it in America. I mean, that's why they always wear glasses so that nobody can read their eyes and what they're looking at and where they're looking. But we know that the whole idea is not to look at the president. It's so the president should be looking at your back all the time
Yeah.
because you're looking out for him.
Right.
That's that's where the expression comes from. Watch my back and all that kind of
You're
stuff.
going to need one of those bodyguards soon, aren't you? But
Why?
that's not about the popularity of your presence at the Two Mike show the other night.
That's very kind of you to say that, Mike. And of course, I'm, a naturally affable sort of guy and don't have any problem getting on with people. And We will have an announcement at the end of this week, won't we, about a new...
we will, yeah.
2 Max live show before Christmas.
Final show before Christmas,
Just getting it all sorted out, kids, and that should be around about the first week of December, but we'll get all that sorted.
And for lots of people who keep asking about when we're bringing it around the country,
Yes.
we're trying to arrange that, but it takes a bit of time, though, because it's not so easy as doing it in London.
I'm going up to Birmingham next week and talking to people there. We hope to do that. But enough of that. That's on the stage. We're now in the studio. Let me tell you a little bit more. Just let me finish about Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc, yeah.
Appalling to have burnt her at the stake. I mean, what an appalling way for somebody to die anyway. But,
Yeah, well, they had lots of horrible
Yeah.
ways to kill people in those days.
But, Mike, it was even worse than that. What they used to do when they burnt you at the stake is, if they really didn't like you, wanted you just to suffer, they put a minimum amount of bushwood
Kindling.
on the floor
Yeah.
so that you actually cooked to death, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's more or less what she did, isn't it?
Yeah. If they really felt sorry for you, that's the people of the town. This was in Rouen, I think, where they should burn you at the stake. Then all the local people would go out into the woods and get a load of bushwood and they'd chuck it onto the flames.
To make it
so it became
smoky.
a huge inferno and the smoke would get you first and all that kind of stuff. You know, and your lungs would collapse and all that and you wouldn't go through the pain of being burnt and all that kind of stuff. Horrible, horrible thing. But the reason I objected to it, even though she was allegedly in conspiracy against the English, it was right at the end of the 100 Years' War, you know, but it was so unclear who we were fighting. It was the Burgundians.
Well, it was
as I keep telling you.
all between the different kings who were all kind of
Yeah.
interrelated anyway.
I mean, you know, when you think that Richard I, the Lionheart, didn't even speak English
No.
and all this kind of, he spoke French. I mean, that, you know, that puts everything into perspective. But the point is, she was beatific. And that's why she's now a saint.
Beatific, yeah.
She was sainted by the Catholic Church in the early part of last century. And I mean, she genuinely did have an insight into another world in an era when nobody else did.
Such as?
Well, she refused to answer questions at her trial because she said I can answer that question only to God. And the reason she was burnt wasn't for being a traitor to England. She was burnt for heresy.
Right.
She was sentenced to death and burned at the stake because
being
it
a
was
blasphemer.
being a blasphemer. And I honestly believe she was a messenger from God in the sense that, you know.
You don't believe that, do you?
I do believe that. I believe she was the female equivalent of Jesus Christ.
What?
No, I do. I really do.
Well, she didn't perform any miracles, did she?
How do we know? How do we know she didn't perform any miracles? I mean,
Well, you will know because it's not in the Bible, right? Because
Yeah.
after that appalling display of yours, which was picked
Yeah.
up by quite a few people,
Yeah.
including Pav from Harrow, of course, who said,
That's right.
we started off that conversation with the preacher, and you ended up siding with the preacher instead of actually having the cojones to challenge him on some of the stuff that you'd
Why
already
did they
been...
want to challenge him?
Well, because you were the one that had already said, for example, the Red Sea wasn't parted, that in fact it was a phenomenon of the weather. You also said that you didn't
Yeah.
really understand why the Lazarus story was true because you thought you'd just been in a coma. You said all that stuff
Yeah, but the
before
miracle
the guy
was-
came on, and then when he came on, you
Yeah.
just agreed with
No,
him
I didn't.
in order to shout me down.
I didn't. I said that the miracle of it was that God gave the guidance to those things happening.
No.
And it didn't matter in which way
You
they
just
happened.
became very lily-livered about
One
it.
of the questions Joan of Arc was asked at her trial was, do you believe in fairies? Because she had told people, you know, during her lifetime, and by the way, she was only 19 when she was burned at the stake,
Yeah.
that she talked to fairies at the bottom of the garden, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
She saw people from...
Jardin.
Yeah, from another medium or another
Right.
sort of third
Well,
world and all
Brian
that kind of
Cox,
stuff.
Brian Cox wouldn't have agreed with that, would he?
No, he wouldn't have agreed with that at all. And
So you can't agree with both of them.
say?
This is the problem. You're getting yourself into a cul-de-sac.
What are you on
here.
about?
Well, you're agreeing with Brian Cox when he says that there can be no other form of life outside
Yes.
the earth in
Yes.
which we know. But you're also now saying that Joan of Arc was a great woman because she saw fairies and talked to them.
why do you have so much trouble following my arguments?
Because they don't make any sense.
Joan of Arc, in my view, had a spiritual connection with the Almighty, right?
Who you believe in fervently.
Yes, I do. And you can't see the Almighty, and he's not
No.
within reach on a planet.
No.
What Brian Cox is saying is that though E.T. was a very interesting and amusing film and a great... it can't possibly happen. He's looked at it all. Do you know how close, how far away the closest part of the universe could be that could have any life? 300... No, sorry, I've got this wrong. 3,000 light years away.
Yeah.
That's light travelling at the speed it travels for 3,000 years.
Yeah.
How far away is that?
It's a long way.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And even then, that is only apparently in our own galaxy, never mind all the others, you know what I mean? Excuse me. Sorry.
I thought you were cured.
No, it's the remnants of bird flu. I'll soon be cured of it. It's getting better. I'm
Well, you
fighting
told me not that long ago
Yeah.
that you believe aliens do exist.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't.
Constantly contradicting yourself.
No, I didn't. I mean, this idea of Men in Black, that we're already here, we're all lizards and all that kind of stuff, utter nonsense.
Well,
I mean,
didn't say anything about lizards.
great science fiction, all that kind of stuff. But Professor Cox, right, who I believe knows what he's talking
Well,
about.
the last time we talked about
He
this,
just said
you said...
they can't be here, and do you know why? Because if they are, we'd have detected them. The other thing he did say is, if they are here and they are a million years ahead of us, we can't recognise them anyway because their technology is so advanced, we don't see it as technology.
Well, how about if they're a million years behind?
Well, they wouldn't get here then,
On
would
the
they?
grounds that they've travelled from so far away that actually what we're seeing is how developed they were a long time before they actually are now.
Professor Cox also says we're only
You
here...
didn't listen to any of that,
I
did you?
did, I
no,
did.
you didn't. Once again, you completely
No, I
blanked
did.
it.
No, I did.
You did not answer the question.
I analysed it so
Do
quickly.
you not understand what I'm saying? You don't,
Yes,
do you?
I do, but I analyse it so quickly, you can't believe how fast my brain works. And the other thing that Brian Cox says...
Not as fast as the speed of light.
is
that's
that
for
we're
sure.
only here by accident anyway. There shouldn't be any life in any universe of any galaxy or whatever. But because the meteorite hit the Earth and killed the dinosaurs, that allowed primates then to come through and start developing life, of which we are one, from 3 billion years ago.
Weren't we here at the same time as the dinosaurs?
No,
then?
we weren't. No. There was no.
Is he sure about that?
I'm certain.
You're certain?
I'm certain.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. More anthropological magic from Mr. Parry coming up next. TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. You know that one, right?
This
You
is
know
the
that
Cream.
song? No, it's not Cream. Every song
Who's
is not
this, then?
Cream. This is The Doors.
Oh, the Doors, right? Great.
LA Woman.
Jim Morrison, yeah. LA
Yeah.
Woman, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, the great Doors record was "There's a killer on the road, bum 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 bum. There's a killer on the road.
Well, the one most people recognise is Light My Fire.
Baby, you can light my
That one,
fire." Were they the first to sing that?
I think it was Jose Feliciano
Ah,
recorded it. I'm not sure if they
Jose.
wrote it first or whether he did.
Jose Feliciano, yeah.
But I think the
exactly.
Doors actually wrote the song.
Oh, did they? No, I think Jose did.
No, I don't think so.
Baby, you can
Anyway, it's
light
Capital
my
One
fire.
Cup tonight. Are you going to be keeping your ears out for that? Or Everton, who are they playing?
We're not, I'm afraid.
Oh, Everton not in it?
No, went out to Swansea.
Oh.
Shame
well,
that,
never
yeah.
mind.
But also,
Well, they can concentrate on the league.
yes, we can
Fiddle,
concentrate on the
fiddle.
league. Well, funnily enough, we're playing Swansea on Saturday at Goodison. Now,
You going?
No, I'm not. No.
No.
Right, successive
Are you
victories.
going to go to Goodison at all? This?
Successive
What are you doing?
victories.
What's the point of having a season ticket?
I haven't got a season ticket this season.
Oh, haven't you?
No.
I didn't know
haven't
that.
got a no. I've had to.
That's quite distressing for you, isn't it? Is that how many? That must be the first time in years you haven't had a season
First
ticket.
time in about 15, I think.
Blimey.
But I've just had to readdress things, and I've not been able to get away to Goodison, and explain that to all my friends there. I will still hopefully go to Goodison this season, but at the moment I haven't been able to sort
Well,
it
you
out.
and I will be going to the Spurs game, won't we?
Well, Spurs game
Coming up,
November the 30th.
November the 30th, yeah.
And that's obviously at... what about this fellow who
Well, it's
ran
at White
into...
Hart Lane, isn't
this
it?
fellow who ran into the Prime Minister, which we keep seeing on our monitors.
just talked
in here.
about it a minute ago.
Yeah, we did, you're right. Yeah, that'll be...
Are you still delirious?
No.
We just talked about it before the break there.
I know. No, I was going to say, with our old pal John Sims, we will be at Spurs November the 30th,
Yeah.
okay? And the way
And
it's
luckily
going...
Steve Sherwood won't be there, so you won't be able to get his name wrong.
Tim Sherwood, my friend Tim Sherwood. But what I'm saying is, the way things
Maybe
are
you called
going...
Maurizio Pochettino the wrong name.
The way things are going, I'm telling you, you don't even know if old Mario Pochettino will be there. Because-
Mario Pochettino.
What's his name again?
Maurizio Pochettino.
Maurizio Pochettino, because believe it or not, I've seen a couple of headlines in tomorrow morning's papers, which are even now questioning whether or not, the fans are going to start a campaign to get rid of him.
Well, you'd have to say Daniel Levy's a plan, which was to get him in as the guy that was going to make it all fine after
Yep.
AVB
Yep.
and after
Yep.
Tim Sherwood and all the others not really working out.
Yep.
It's not working out at all well, is it?
Well,
People are starting to say maybe he wasn't a big enough name. Maybe this guy wasn't actually the right guy.
yeah. Well, what I saw in the version I read was that this is the 11th Spurs manager in 13 years
Right.
that Mr. Levy has appointed. And he's still struggling like mad to try and get it right, to find a manager who actually suits Spurs and Spurs suit him. I can't find this story actually, but I've read it somewhere. I mean,
Oh, there's definitely questions being asked.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think they'll get rid of him before we arrive.
No, I find it extraordinary that a man who's only one quarter of the way into his first season is even being talked about as sackable material. But it is there. They're already, the Jungle Drums are definitely.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Definitely beating.
Derek from Pencoed in South Wales says, Mike, after Porky yet again last week showed he is not an expert on a subject, this time the Bible, maybe he should change his name to Noah Nothing.
Noah Nothing. I quite like that, actually.
That is quite
That's
good.
very funny. That's
and
very
funnily
funny.
enough, Pav from Harrow that we spoke to just the other day is on the phone. He wants to correct you about something to do with Joan of Arc.
Oh,
Pav,
okay.
a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Mr. Perry. Nice to see you a bit more sober than when I last saw you.
Who's that? Mate, Pav, are you talking about Mike Graham?
Mr. Perry, I mentioned that quite good.
No, hang on. I left half an hour after the show and had one glass of wine. So, you are literally casting aspersions on me.
That was after 5 hours of drinking.
Which I would normally have conceded to, but on this occasion, totally innocent.
The fact that I actually bought you more than one myself, we won't go into that. I actually wanted to go into the Joan of Arc story.
Yes, let's do
Mr.
that.
Perry. When exactly did she perform her miracles? Because from what I can gather from my lack of historical knowledge, obviously compared to yourself,
yes, of
she
course.
died at 19, and of course her canonization, which took place in the early 20s, was a move for political expediency at the time when the Pope at the time was obviously trying to gain some further in France.
Yeah.
When exactly did she perform these alleged miracles? Because I've never come across it. She was part of my finals paper at a small university on the M40 called Oxford, you might have heard of, so I'm fascinated to hear this from you.
Yes. Well, of course.
You sure that wasn't Oxford Polytechnic, Pav?
Yeah.
Well, sadly, like Mr. Perry's, the Trent was a Polytechnic. Mine's quite old, as he's probably knows.
Okay.
He's probably around. So go on, Mr. Perry, enlighten me.
And sorry, which college were you at?
St Hugh's College, Mr. Perry.
St Hugh's, OK.
The same one that George Clooney's wife from March, she was a fellow of mine.
Oh,
Carry
right.
on.
OK, well, I was, of course, an interviewee at Brasenose College, Oxford, but I chose...
An interviewee?
Yes.
Wow.
I chose...
Were they looking for a new janitor?
I chose a different route. Actually, you can learn quite a lot about Oxford if you watch Inspector... What's his
Lewis.
name? Lewis. Yeah, that's right. Teaches a lot about Oxford and universities. Now, the answer to your question, of course, Pav, and it's a question which you should know the answer to already, is that the real miracle workers don't boast about their miracles. So, and in those days, people didn't write a lot of things down because there wasn't a lot of paper around. So
burning it all.
Well, they burn a lot of wood. And that one of the questions she was asked in her trial, as you must know, being a student of this period of history, do you believe in fairies? Now, that's because she'd told people she had communicated with, with elements of people from a different medium, a different element of life to her. So that was it.
She didn't mean the English.
I mean, if you don't think she did any miracles, but the prosecution did, that's why they charged her with heresy. They said she was a witch, and witches were usually put to death for performing miracles.
Call me cynical, Mr. Perry. Wasn't the acclaim of that she was hearing divine voices and hearing about fairies quite a cast iron, if you like, argument in court, because she was obviously trying to avoid her father getting her married off at 16 because she had taken this vow of chastity. There was nothing proven. And with regards to miracles, there's no primary sources or any subsequent secondary sources before the earliest 20th century which actually note any of her miracles down. So it's almost like this a revisionist history. You can read through the whole of history with yourself, Mr. Perry, with yourself as the author.
No. Another reason, you've touched on something there, another reason why
You are
she...
a bit of a revisionist.
No,
that's
I'm
what you
not
said.
revisionist. Another reason why she was done for heresy was because she was the first woman in history to insist on wearing men's clothes. And the reason she did that was exactly because what you just said, her vow of chastity meant that if she wore men's clothes and men's armour, then that couldn't be removed and she wouldn't be raped by her captors when she was held in custody, held in prison, that is, held in jail, before she was put to death. You see, it all adds
So she
up.
used to clank around in the old armour,
Yeah,
did she?
yeah.
Pav, thank you
Yes,
very much
yes,
indeed.
Yes, she did, yeah.
I don't think we know as much
Yes, she
about
did.
Joan of Arc, perhaps, as you would say that
No,
we did.
no, I do know. I do. You study these things. I mean, every time Pav comes on, he seems to be an expert in another subject, which
funny that, isn't it?
which was unknown to us previously.
Yeah. It's
You
a
know
bit
what I
like
mean?
yourself. I mean, every time you come on here, you're an expert on something else.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about cyclists, because you've had a bit of a run-in
Get on
with
my
a
nerves.
cyclist. Now, we haven't talked about cyclists for a while.
No, we haven't, but they're getting on my nerves.
What I was thinking about, actually, was this afternoon, afternoon. Joggers used to be the bane of our lives,
That's right.
you know, because there was always joggers everywhere. Now there's cyclists everywhere. I can't believe the number of cyclists there are on the roads.
The other night, mate, before coming in here, right, stopped just round the corner there. There's a little hotel on the corner called the Minute Hotel or something like that. And
The Minute, around the corner from here?
Yeah.
it?
It's run, I think it's run by Tony Fernandez's mob, you know, the chairman of Queen's Park Rangers.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, anyway, the point of the story is it means that there's constantly people coming in and out, you know, with cases and all that. So there's cases on the pavement, so
Oh, yeah.
you have to be careful that you don't walk into them, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you step to a I stepped to the side to avoid a, you know, pile of cases or something, and this guy whizzed past on a bike in great speed, and...
Were you on the road, though?
No, I was on the pavement.
Oh, okay.
I was on the pavement, honestly, and nearly took my nose off. I mean,
So he was on the pavement as well?
He was on the pavement.
See, that's entirely dangerous,
He
isn't it?
whizzed past, and I was so angry, I shouted after him, you know, words to the effect that this is a pavement, not a road, you know,
Right.
get on the road. And it
Was
was...
there any oaths issued?
Yes, there were. Yes,
I don't blame you for
I was
that.
very angry.
Don't blame you.
First of all, he had no lights. Now, I know from when I was a kid that if you were driving around on a bike at night without lights, you'd get stopped by a policeman.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very old-fashioned, but that actually
Well, you are
happened.
supposed to have at least a backlight, aren't
You're
you?
supposed to have a light front and back, because one of these days, one of these guys is going to drive into my Mercedes, right, because I won't see him
A
pulling
lot,
out
of
of a
them
junction.
a lot of them are wearing dark clothes as
They
well.
wear dark clothes, and I won't see him. He'll smash into my Mercedes, damage it. I don't care about him, and I don't care about his bike, but I do care about my car, and I don't want it smashed and wrecked by some self-harming cyclist. So they don't have any lights. They drive around. They're a law unto themselves.
They disobey the traffic laws.
They
a lot of them.
disobey them terribly. They go through red lights all the
And
time.
every time we talk about this, of course,
Yeah.
we get loads of people sending texts in and,
Yeah.
and tweeting us saying, yeah, but they don't all do that. You're talking about a small minority. It's not a small minority,
No,
I kid you not.
it's a vast majority. Now, the other thing is, they don't pay in any way for use of roads. Now, coming somewhere yesterday, where was I yesterday? I don't know if I was sort of down in Surrey or
Down by
something
the
like
pond
that.
somewhere?
I had to go for 2.5 miles up a narrow road, which was on a hill.
What,
And I
you're
had,
walking, you mean, or in a car?
I was in a car,
Right.
and I had to go at less than 20 miles an hour, because the guy in front was a cyclist with all his Lycra gear on, you know, giving it, you know, the big I am and all that. And because there was traffic coming the other way for the whole of the journey, there was no way I could overtake him. A queue built up behind me, back as far as the eye could see.
Right.
These guys are so selfish. Now, my main problem is they don't pay anything towards the upkeep of roads. Now, you could say, well, hang on, cyclists don't wreck roads. They've just got little machines with rubber tyres. Rubbish. The roads are there for motorists and so on. Now, supposing in years to come, Mike, we all have our own personal little flying machines, okay?
Yeah.
You know, it could easily happen, you know what I mean? You get in and you take off supercar style and that kind of stuff. Now, supposing we said to ourselves, oh, that's okay, you know, I can touch down at Heathrow and then take off and touch down at Gatwick, and we didn't pay anything for the use of
Well,
those
you
airports.
wouldn't have to go to an airport, would you, if you were just flying about?
Well, you
could
would.
stop- touch down anywhere.
Where else are you going to land? On a road?
Well, you could land on a roof, you could land in a green
No,
space.
no, you'd have to have... Anyway, the point of my story is this. What I'm saying is the international airline companies spend millions of pounds a week on provision of airports
Yeah.
and paying for their... And then if other people suddenly come along and start using them just because they're there, that's what cyclists do. They use the roads just because they're there. They don't pay for any maintenance. They don't have number plates.
So you can't track them.
You can't track them.
They have no insurance.
Cameras can't track them. They have no insurance. More to the point, they have no MOT. Now, if a bike doesn't have proper brakes, and a lot of them don't when they go whizzing down these hills and all that, they'll cause accidents. All of this legislation needs to be introduced, and the cyclist has got to be charged for the cost of putting in that legislation.
Yeah.
So a cyclist should pay £50 a year cyclist charge. That's then used for employing people to regulate cycling in this
And
country.
it might make them more responsible as
It
well.
might make more responsible. Maybe someone will throw their old bikes away. But, you know, the Green lobby are too frightened to speak up and say you've got to regulate cyclists because cyclists are supposed to be the cleanest form of transport. Well, that might be, but they're also the most inefficient
because
form of
you'll also
transport.
hear what we'll hear now for the next
Yeah,
hour is a load of
yeah.
tweets from cyclists
Yeah.
who say, yeah, but of course it's not really the road tax, it's an emissions tax, which is partially true,
Rubbish.
but it's not the
It's
point of
not.
the argument. The point
who,
of the
who do you
argument...
think pays for the maintenance of roads? And this is in a
No,
week.
but it's the same logic that means that if you're driving a car with very low emissions,
Yeah.
like in you know, you don't pay
yeah.
road tax.
Yeah. And this
they give you a break.
This is in a week when
You don't pay a congestion charge if you've got an electric car.
No, that's absolutely right. Which you can't hear, by the way. They're very dangerous. One passed me the other day, and it was like a shadow.
No, I know.
It's like a ghost. You know. I thought, where's that come
from? Well, do you know the makers of the Prius actually put a little noise in?
That's right.
Because it was so quiet that they were running people over.
That's absolutely right. And it comes in a week when a report was published to say that only about 13.5% of road tax is ever spent on roads.
No, it's shocking.
That is a disgusting figure.
It is.
Because the thing is, we need every single penny of road tax to fill in the potholes in this country, which are wrecking cars but not wrecking bikes.
True.
I mean,
because you're always driving into them, aren't you?
Yeah, I am always driving into them because they're there. And if they're there, you can't see them.
You know, if I drive into a pothole, it doesn't make any difference.
Well, that's... What do you mean?
Because I've got a Land Rover. It doesn't make any odds.
Well, if you like smashing up your car, mate, that's up to you.
It doesn't smash it
I
up.
buy cars which are not worth smashing up. You know, if you've got one that doesn't
It's not
matter.
worth smashing up.
Yeah. No. I mean, what I mean
I
is...
know what you mean.
Too expensive to smash up. You couldn't care less about your car. It's an old wreck, and you don't care if it falls to pieces with you inside it.
Very much
Which,
the
of course, is
description
a highly likely event.
Look into the light. It's that time. We'll be back, of course, with the two mics on Thursday night. It'll be another 5-hour spectacular, thankfully free of the man flu this time around. Mr. Perry, thank you very much indeed. That was the Two Mics podcast.
Yes, it certainly was. Don't forget, it's out every Tuesday and every Friday morning on iTunes.
And you can follow us at the Two Mics.
So keep listening for more of MG's loose morals. Believe me, this boy hasn't got a moral fibre in his body.
And more of his bizarre buffoonery.
What?